This is the OTP presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's game day for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to draw up a winning play for you. They've been backing Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. So glad to welcome Titans head coach Brian Callahan. Good to see you, Coach.
Good to be here.
Coach, in your press conference today, you received almost 10 separate questions about Will Levis. What were some of the most important things that you took from his performance against the Chargers?
Yeah, the first things first, no turnovers. We have, I don't know how many games straight we've thrown an interception between him and Mason, but to have no turnovers from the quarterback position was a very positive step in the right direction. I thought Will played it efficient. He completed the ball, but he didn't do best way to say this would be he played efficient, but he also was aggressive in some of the throws that he made. And those some tight window throws. They were accurate. He played with some poise and some calmness to his game. Certainly things we got to correct. I think there's a couple opportunities to get rid of the ball a little sooner on some of those plays, particularly some of the third and long plays that you're just demoralizingly taking a sack on 3rd and 20, and it's like, just give us a chance, put the ball in the fairway and let us see what happens after that, and maybe we get to a point where we can go for it, or maybe we make a guy miss and get a first down as opposed to holding on to it, trying to wait for something to develop on a long yardage situation. But yeah, I was encouraged. I thought I saw growth. I saw maturity. I saw a lot of the things I was hoping to see from his performance.
You had talked about part of this was obviously him getting healthy. 90% of it was him getting healthy. But you hoped during that period of time he would watch Mason Rudolph play. He would spend time with Trevor Siemian. He would kind of be able to take a step back and roll back into it in a better frame of mind to do the job the way you want it done. That's what you saw?
Yeah, I saw flashes of that. I think it was his highest quarterback rating. I think maybe second only to one other game last year. He was efficient. We didn't turn the ball over. And one of the things I've said before is that really quarterback play in the NFL for 90% of the time is rather boring. And then there's 10% of the time where you got to come alive and you got to make a big throw like you did for the touchdown, or you got to make a tight window throw like you did twice to Nick Westbrook, and you got to make a touchdown throw that's you got to put in the perfect spot like you did to Calvin. Like, those are the things you have to see when the circumstances require it. And he also made some really nice plays with his feet, which was good to see as well. So I thought he showed a ton of growth. I was really happy with a lot of the things he did, and ultimately we have to do more of it more often and better to put more points on the board than we did.
Follow up something you just said. Your comment in the press conference was 80% of playing quarterback is doing normal, mundane things well. So how much of Will Levis's current development right now is focused on day-to-day work on that 80% mundane list of things?
A lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, and it's a holistic growth from and again, I thought from the growth from week 1 to what he showed in this week was really, really positive, and I'm encouraged by it. And I thought he threw the ball accurately. I think he had, you're going to miss a throw or two in every game, but I thought he played a brand of football that is, when you stack enough of it together, should be a really good brand of football for us. And I'm encouraged by what happened on Sunday.
You talk about decision-making, and that seems like something that would be a really hard thing to simulate, because it's one thing to understand something in theory. It's another thing to make the right decision on the test, so to speak. Mm-hmm. How do you replicate not only making a good decision in the right time, but also being under stress, under pressure, and making that decision quickly?
You can't simulate that. You can do your best to make it as close as possible, but there's no simulation for what Sundays feel like. The speed, the intensity, the hard part for quarterback play is you sometimes don't get the look you're expecting on a play, or you're hunting up a particular look or particular coverage that you think they might play, and they don't play that. And so it's that in the moment reaction of, oh, this isn't what we thought we were going to get. What's my next answer? Is it a check down? Is it a scramble? Is it did all of a sudden an alert that we thought would be covered pop open? Should we take a shot at it? Those are all the things that go into playing the position, and I think that's what you see. I saw more of that this week than I had at any point this year.
Is that the template of how you want to see Will Levis run the football?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's he's got a unique skill set, and that's part of the reason why he had to be fully healthy before he came back is because that's also a part of his game, is being able to use his feet. He's big and strong and fast, and there's lots of things you can do in the run game that puts a ton of stress on a defense in the quarterback run game world, where he's not necessarily taking flush hits, and it's not like he's a running back in that sense, but there are advantages for our offense. When the quarterback becomes part of the equation, it puts a ton of stress on the defense. It slows them down. It makes them have to read and react a little more, and I thought we started mixing those in well, and is only capable of doing that if he's healthy, and that was a huge part of being able to go ready to go play, is that can you do all of the things you have to do to play the quarterback position for us, and that's one of them.
Talking about Will Levis, the next logical thing to talk about is the offensive line. And you mentioned that you were not really pleased with the play you got at right tackle. Does veteran Isaiah Prince get the opportunity to get in the mix at right tackle this week?
Yeah, we'll see. I think that's a possibility. It's probably a little early for me to fully commit to that, but yeah, that's a possibility. The play wasn't what we needed, and everywhere else is pretty decent. I got some good performances there. I thought JC played fantastic. I thought Pete played really well. Dan Brunskill stepped in and really, you didn't feel the loss that I thought we would feel with not Lloyd not being there, and you got a chance to see Danny play really well. And I thought Dylan was up and down. I think he felt the loss of practice time and all that from the injury that he's working through. And then between Leroy and John, I just didn't think that was up to the standard of what we need to win.
Minnesota's defensive coordinator is Brian Flores, and he is known for bringing pressure from everywhere.
Yep.
Is that going to affect who plays on that offensive line on Sunday?
No, that's really more my responsibility, and our coaching staff is to figure out the best way to neutralize their pressure packages as best you can. They do a great job. Really, really smart defensive coach, and they got good players on top of it. But the scheme is challenging, and they make you feel they bring pressure a lot. But what they do more that's harder for us is that they make you feel like they're going to bring pressure, and then they drop out of it. And they mix those two things sort of over the course of the game, and it's very challenging for a quarterback, as you've seen all the quarterbacks that have had to play against.
But what is different about their pressure package than other specific pressure packages in the league that make us hear so much about what Brian Flores is doing with the Vikings?
It's sort of a best way to put it. It's a very threatening pressure package. They're going to try to bring one more than you can block most of the time. A lot of it's based out of the zero blitz family of things, where we're not talking just like a 5-man pressure or something. You're talking like heavy artillery, 6 and 7 guys. But what they do then is they pop guys out from the middle, and then they show you that same exact look, and now you check your protection to max protection, or you check to a screen, or you check to something that can beat zero blitz, and then they drop out into cover 2, and it's all guys from different spots, and it's just really, really, really well done. Everything marries together. You don't know if pressure's coming or not coming, so you have to have pressure answers, and then you have to have protection answers, and it's just a cat and mouse game that he does a really good job of putting stress on the offense.
Okay, so I'm going deep on this, admittedly. But
all right.
I'm fascinated by them because you hear so much about them. They have all this pressure, and yet they give up only 79 yards a game rushing. How is a defense like that so good at run defense as well?
They got good players.
Well,
Brian
Callahan, everyone.
Real deep, Mike. Good job.
No, but I think part of that is that there's a lot of guys in the line of scrimmage because of some of the pressure looks. They make you have to account for all their safeties. I think Harrison Smith is one of the best ones still at making life hard on quarterbacks and offenses, and they do a great job of gapping you out per se in the run game. They get you in a bunch of one-on-ones, and they let guys go win, because of the amount of people at the line of scrimmage. And you see that you get a little bit timid to drop back sometimes because you got to worry about the pressure, and so you're trying to run the ball, but there's all these guys there. It's challenging. They do a really nice job.
And so then it explains this next point I'm going to mention. Minnesota's defense has 15 interceptions, 20 total takeaways.
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. The pressure and the bogey looks, as they say.
All of it. Yep. And and then the other part that I probably failed to mention is what happens when you have all these pressure looks and you have to have all these answers offensively, and it looks like a zero blitz, and you have to have an answer for it, and you got to do all the things to make sure you're protected, and then all of a sudden they drop out, and now the quarterback has to hold the ball, or and they're dropping guys from different spots. So they're getting to cover 2, but they're getting to it in what we call non-traditional ways, where the safety might be the Tampa player and the nickel might be the half player and the safety on the ball might be the flat player. And so they kind of come from all different spots, and that forces quarterbacks, I think, sometimes into errant decisions, and makes them hold the ball, and then they get hit, and then the ball pops up, and that's the result.
Yeah.
So how do you beat it?
You can beat it. It's possible. You can definitely beat it. Jake Browning did a decent job last year of handling those things, and I think that it's challenging. It wasn't easy. You got to make some plays. You got to make the hard plays. You're going to get a couple opportunities a game to take advantage, and you have to do it. And then you just have to make sure you're not behind the sticks, because when you get in the 3rd and 7+ against this crew, it's the best way I can put it is a nightmare. In that down and distance area, and they also make you play 3rd down twice. If you're in 2nd and 8, 9, 10, 11, here comes the 3rd down package. So then you got to play it twice, which is not fun either. So that's what it is, and you have to make sure you're on schedule. You got to find a way to run the ball, even though it's been relatively difficult to do those things on them.
Well, so it sounds like step 1 is giving the quarterback a little bit of time back there. And with Lloyd Cushenberry out, Daniel Brunskill took over at center. How did he play within the entire offensive line?
I thought he was fantastic. He hit a really, really nice game, directed the protection, got everybody communicated, everyone's on the same page. His intelligence showed, his ability to process all those things showed up, and really pleased with that. I mean, that's a big void to fill, losing your center, and he stepped in and we didn't really miss a beat in that regard, and that's a huge testament to Dan and his preparation and his work to be ready for that moment.
You mentioned that the Titans had 11 negative plays on offense against the Chargers. If you didn't have a turnover, what constitutes a negative play in that way?
Going backwards. So
Okay.
Sacks and penalties, between those two. I mean, like I said, he had 7 sacks, and we had, I don't know how many penalties. What was it, 4 or 5 penalties or so on offense, and those are the things. Those are things that we can control. That isn't necessarily. I think we had 1 or 2 sacks that were truly just a guy got beat fast and we took a sack. The rest of it is getting rid of the football, having better technique, doing things that can eliminate those negative plays. We're going backwards, because when you look in the second half, first drive we come out from the second half, we move the ball right down the field, we kick a field goal. Get to a 3rd and 2. Those are where we got to be better, is converting 3rd downs in the red zone. Those are 4-point plays, right? Give us a chance to score 7. Then we come back in the next series. We get a 1st down. We try to take a vertical shot. We get sacked. Now it's 2nd and 15. It's 3rd and 14. We get sacked again, and we punt. We get the ball back again. Very similar situation, right? Ball doesn't go our way. We end up moving 1st down or 2, and then we end up getting sacked, and I think it was 3rd and 23.
Right.
So that's 3 drives, and we only had 4. And so our 4th drive, we're the game's well out of reach, but we're still fighting to get in it, and we move down the field and score a touchdown. So we scored 10 points on 4 possessions in the second half, but 2 of those things were brought up. 2 of those drives were stopped because we gave up a sack and or a penalty that put us into a 3rd and 15, 3rd and 23, where your odds of converting are very, very low. And that's where we have to do a better job, is not put ourselves in those spots where we have to overcome mistakes. Let's stay on schedule and not have mistakes that we can control. We can control jumping off sides. We can control when and where sacks happen for the most part, not every time. But those are the things that we have to do a better job offensively of managing, the things that we can control and doing a better job staying on schedule.
Let's turn to defense, shall we?
Yeah.
Your defense has not given up many yards through 9 games this season, but in the red zone, the Titans' defense hasn't been as effective.
Mm-hmm.
Was the unit not doing well in that specific area?
It's sort of everybody's had their moment where they've not been where they're supposed to be, how the coverage should work. The one touchdown to that Kenneth Murray gets a lot of heat for really wasn't on him. It was really a rush didn't get there fast enough. He gave him too much time to kind of scan the field, and he sort of found him late on the backside of a progression where we were supposed to be on the front side, and he just sort of got lost on the backside. But those are things that we really can't have happen. You have to be able to get to the quarterback, first and foremost. We have to make sure that we're pressuring and affecting the quarterback in the red zone, particularly on red zone 3rd downs. And we did one. Roger made a great play on the one red zone 3rd down early that forced him to kick a field goal. But we need to do more of that. There needs to be more detail, better discipline, better eyes in those tight moments in the red zone, particularly on third downs, which we had a couple third down touchdowns. So we can force them to kick a field goal as opposed to putting 7 and really doing the opposite of what we're doing. We're not scoring and kicking field goals, and our opponents have scored, and we've not forced them to kick enough field goals. So it's a complementary piece, but there's got to be better execution overall in the red zone.
Hey, Titans fans, with a Kroger Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and lots more. Go to Kroger.com/boost for details. Kroger, official grocer of the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up.
Home is at the forefront of all that we do. It's why we're so committed to caring for the places and spaces in which we work and live. Ashley, the official furniture provider of the Tennessee Titans.
We continue with Titans head coach Brian Callahan.
Coach Jack Gibbons had 15 tackles against the Chargers. Did his play in Los Angeles meet the high standards that he set in the 2 previous games?
Yeah, I think it did. I think there was a lot of really positive things about his performance. I think in the run game we could have been better. That was really the first time that teams have really run the ball like that on us. Maybe them in Green Bay were the 2 games where the run game got away from us. But Gibby was still around the ball. He was making plays. He was kicking guys down on the ground. I thought he was a more physical presence the week before, just more active and knock back and downhill. And this week was maybe not that, but still just as productive in terms of getting his hands on the ball carriers and getting guys down on the ground. So it was another really good performance by him, and one that we needed and we need more of.
You didn't sack Justin Herbert except for when you did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my.
That didn't end up counting it, but I digress. He only threw 18 passes, and a lot of them were quick.
Yeah.
So are we being too hard on the defensive line and the pass rushers?
No, there's certainly what happened in that game, which was sort of the opposite of what happened in the New England game, is they did a really nice job of staying on schedule. And so a lot of those third downs and passing situations, they were 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, as opposed to being able to knock a run out on 1st and 10
right.
and being in 2nd and 10, and then now you're in 3rd and 7. We were off script in that regard, and so it's really difficult for a defense when an offense is on schedule like that to get pressure because of that reason. The ball doesn't have to go down the field. You don't have to drop back and wait for a concept to develop. You can get the ball out of your hand, you can check it down, and you're going to get first downs, and that's really what they did. They ran the ball effectively enough, and when they had to throw it, they were in advantageous positions. And so the throws didn't have to go very far to still be effective, and they just sort of checked the ball down and sort of hit us. I think I said it after the game, but it felt a little bit like death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was like 4 yards and 3 yards and first down, and 3 yards and 5 yards and 10 yards, and just like you're like, oh man, like when is this gonna stop?
Right.
And that's what they do well, and that's what they've done well against everybody they've played against. Is they limit the scoring, and then they hold the ball for a long time and make it really difficult to have more than 7 or 8 possessions in a game, and that's challenging.
Let's turn to Minnesota's offense.
Mm-hmm.
Does it revolve around Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, it certainly does. They're still going to be they're still a really pretty good rushing football team. Everything sort of comes off the run and the actions off of that. It's same. So Kevin O'Connell and I come from similar backgrounds in that sense, and there's a lot of things that they do that I like to watch, and I think they do a really good job of their run game and action game. But they're trying to get the ball to Justin Jefferson as they should, and he's him and Jamar Chase are the 2 best players in football, and every week it sort of seems to be who outduels the other, and they've proven and earned the right to garner a whole lot of attention from defenses, and so we're gonna have to do a great job making sure he doesn't get going. I thought Jacksonville looked like they did a pretty good job last week in managing that, but yeah, he's one of the best players in the league, and the ball should run through him.
You know receivers so well. What is it that makes Justin Jefferson such a difference maker?
Oh man, probably his ability that he can play all through the formation. So he can play inside, outside. He's got every route tree. He's a technician when it comes to running routes. And then he's really strong at the catch point. And so everything he does, he can get open, he can separate. He knows how to create separation. He knows how to win leverage. But then when the ball's in the air, it's his. He goes and gets it, and he doesn't let anybody get in the way of that. And he can make physical catches, contested catches. He's fearless. Again, I think there's the 2 best receivers in the league, and he's certainly in that conversation as the best.
So I'm going to delve into that because you made a strong statement there saying that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are the two best in the NFL. What is similar about those two players? What is different about those two players?
The similarities are their attitude, where they are, as the kids say these days, they're dogs, and they want the ball, and when the ball's in the air, it's theirs. They don't let anybody get in the way of it, and they have a confidence about them. They're going to make every play that comes their way. Now, do they? No, of course not, but they make a whole lot of them. Jamar's different, and Jamar's is a different type of. He plays with way more the strength. He's kind of a power, like he just kind of powers through people. Where I think Justin's got, he's a really good route runner. He doesn't have the same strength and power in the route as Jamar does, but they're both ability to create separation different ways, but their ability to create separation and win on routes and route savvy and understanding leverage and all those things are. I mean, they're by far two of the best you could ever want to have. I mean, they're really good players.
The guy throwing Jefferson the ball this year is Sam Darnold. 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, been sacked 26 times, but he's been very effective running Kevin O'Connell's offense. Why?
You can see the maturity in his development. You can see, I think, the time spent in San Francisco before he got there probably paid off for him. But I see a guy playing with confidence. I see him playing with understanding, and he's playing fast, and he's putting the ball in places that guys can go get it. I thought Sam was a good player coming out of college, and just like all these guys, a lot of it's situation dependent when you arrive at a team, and there was a lot of things that you liked about Sam coming out, and I think you're starting to see those things again now. All the accuracy, the timing, his understanding, those things have all been evident on tape, and he knows the offense well now. You can see him; he's comfortable. He can get through his progressions. He knows where to find the ball. He knows where the ball should go versus different coverages, and I think he's done a really nice job.
Minnesota won 7 games last year. They've already won 7 games this year. Why have they been able to get to this point of improvement from 23 to 24?
I think a large part of that was, they lost Kirk Cousins the year before. That was probably a big part of their dip and wins. But you see a really confident team. They play really hard. They play together. You see the turnovers. They've forced a whole lot of them, and they've put guys in really tough spots, and they've capitalized on those. So they just do a great job of complementing each other, sort of all three phases, and they got good players. They got guys that are making plays and are hungry to make plays, and I think Kevin's done a great job with their team, with the culture, and you see they're everything that he wants them to be in terms of a team that's playing together, that plays for each other. Those are all the things that I'm certain he's preaching.
It's good stuff. We'll remind you that Sunday's game at Nissan Stadium kicks off at 12:02. Titans Countdown on all of our Titans radio stations hits the air at 11 a.m. Central Time. Titans and the Vikings this Sunday at Nissan Stadium on Titans Radio. Thank you so much for your time, as usual, Brian Callahan.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Titans fans, SeatGeek makes it easy to find tickets so you can be a part of all the touchdown celebrations this season.
Whether you're buying or selling football tickets, SeatGeek is the place to do it. SeatGeek is the official primary ticketing partner of the Tennessee Titans.
The most disruptive idea in ticketing, a ticket that works. Expect the expected.
SeatGeek.
SeatGeek. Made a rookie mistake this football season? Maybe you should have had a Snickers.
Because now you can enter for the chance to turn those rookie mistakes into prizes, including a trip to Super Bowl 59.
Visit Snickers.com/rookie mistakes for details. All right, here we go. Burke, Nihill, so glad to have you with us on the OTP. Thanks for taking time.
Great to be here, Mike.
It's November. The Titans broke ground on new Nissan Stadium 8 months ago. So what are the most important things that have happened construction-wise so far?
February 29th, we had a few shovels and started digging a hole. But since that time, we've cleared out 410,000 cubic square feet of dirt. That's about 23,000 truckloads of dirt that we've actually hauled off of the site. Actually, at some point, moved too quickly with that, and we had to find places to put the dirt because they were just getting it off the site so quickly. They've also started to put in piers, which is the anchor for the stadium. If you're driving by these days, you will see something that's starting to take the shape of a stadium. There are places where we actually have about 4 stories worth of flooring that has been installed, the concrete layers. So it's coming along very, very well.
You did a walkthrough at the new stadium recently. What stood out to you about that experience?
There are places that you can stand and you can see the football field because the way the piers have been installed and some of the building has come together, you can see the shape. And having lived within renderings for so long, to be able to stand in places and you know how that's going to come alive when it's fully complete, a club area or a space for standing room only folks to stand and watch the game and picture what's going to actually happen on that field and that very real estate. It was a pretty awesome experience.
Have the questions that you've gotten, maybe even the most common questions you've gotten, changed about the new stadium in the last 8 months?
Anybody who's come to the stadium over the last few months, if you are on the east side of the stadium, you get a good view of it. And I do think it's true of people who've worked on this project and people who've just heard about it. There's a different reality when you start to see this building coming out of the ground. And so you end up getting questions like, is it on schedule? And people who maybe haven't been paying attention as closely to when is this building going to open? Those are the sorts of questions that I'm starting to get. And the answers are all good answers. Still 2027 is when the building is scheduled to open. It really is a statement about the amount of planning and good work that has gone in by Kellen DeCourcy and so many other people from the construction team. Really, by now, we probably should have encountered some surprises and some delays if it was a typical project, but they just did such good work on the front end, making sure that this building was going to be a great building and had such a good plan and a construction schedule that they were able to maintain, that we're right on schedule to be done with this construction sometime probably spring of 2027 and plenty of time for Titans football in 2027.
The construction is a very obvious physical sign of progress, but what are maybe some of the less obvious things that are also progressing within this project?
I think the most obvious thing is Titans fans are getting excited about envisioning their future at the new stadium. We opened Titans House earlier this spring, and so far thousands of people have come through Titans House and have secured seats for their new stadium. We completed Wave 1 much earlier than expected. Wave 1 was premium offerings, our new clubs for the new Nissan Stadium. We expected to be on sale with Wave 1 sometime in January of next year. We plan to wind up those sales, and by the time we got to the end of August, we had already sold through all of that inventory, which is really humbling to see that fan response. Now we're well into Wave 2 of the Titans House process and welcoming hundreds of people a day through Titans House, and people are just so excited about picturing where specifically their experience will be in a new Nissan Stadium.
The part of it that I have experienced with Titans fans with Titans House is that the different features of the stadium blow them away, but the overriding one is the sight lines. Everybody is really taken aback by how much closer you're going to be and how you're going to feel like you're part of the action. Are you experiencing the same sort of thing when you talk to people?
It really is such a paradigm shift from the current Nissan Stadium to a new Nissan Stadium. Really, any NFL building in this NFL building, quite literally, the new Nissan Stadium will have the best fan sight lines of any building in the NFL. On average, it's about 39% closer to the action than the current Nissan Stadium. We have said from the beginning we were out to design a building where every seat would be an amazing experience. And now that we have the ability to, with technology, show the literal view from every seat, it's holding true. There are places that are just, you'd expect that based on being on a terrace level as opposed to a lower level, that view would be compromised. And it's just not. It's a beautiful view. In fact, I have secured PSLs for my family, and we purchased in the terrace level because we believe it's going to be that great of an experience.
We've talked a lot about the fan experience and what they can expect in the new building. What about the players who are also going to have a new home and a completely different experience on game days? What are some of the features that they can expect to see?
Look, we designed this building and wanted it to be authentic to Nashville and beautiful and just feel different all the way across the board. But one thing that I think it really is important to let people know is that we really had two stakeholders in mind at every point, and one were the fans and the other were the players. In order for this to be a home field advantage for the next 30 years, which we expect it to be, we really needed to have a level of intentionality and making sure that from a player experience, from a coach's experience, from a trainer's experience, just all of the football team would have an improved experience over the current Nissan Stadium and a competitive advantage over other stadiums in the NFL. So things like the locker room, things like the trainer's area, things like the meeting rooms, they're all somewhere between 50 to 100% bigger than the current Nissan Stadium. We really tried to think about the player's experience from end to end. So we designed underground parking for the players, so they'll be able to pull right in underneath the stadium, and the walk from their car to the locker room is as short as you could possibly imagine it would be. The walk from the player locker room to the field, there's multiple tunnels to get there, and they're all a direct shot. We want this to be a place that the players come and they have as easy of an experience getting ready to play a game as possible. And it's really neat to see how we fit all these puzzle pieces together in a way that I think is going to pull that off.
New Nissan Stadium, a question that only Burke Nihill can answer. You've been involved in every stage of this. So as we've moved along, and now that we're 8 months into the process, what is the most intriguing part of the stadium that maybe you had not even really considered when this process started?
Oh boy, I mean, I think we gave so much thought to almost every part of the building that that is the magic of this building, is there's just not a corner that we didn't think about. So it's hard to answer that question very directly. I'll give you one very specific part of the building that we're excited about, and that's a green room. So if this is going to be Music City, we've known from the beginning that the building features are going to be something that either promotes a great music experience during a Titans game or is just kind of mailing it in like every other stadium. And so from the beginning, if fans have been following this journey, you know, we decided to put a stage right in the middle of the lower bowl. And that stage is about the size of the Ryman stage, to give you a sense. And the idea is that every national anthem, every halftime, maybe even during games, we can have incredible live music coming from that stage. But one thing that we learned early as we were talking to folks in the music industry was musicians care about having a good green room to get ready, to bring family, to relax. And so we're working really hard on this level of detail on a green room for a football stadium. And I think it's going to end up being one of those places that 15 years from now, people want to go on a tour of the building and see this famous green room because of all the great acts that are going to come through that room.
Very cool.
We're so excited about all of the things that Nissan Stadium is going to provide for us, the new Nissan Stadium. But we still have a lot of construction to do. What are the next big things that are on deck in terms of this project continuing forward?
So if you go by the site today, you'll see there's 4 cranes out on the site, which is more than a lot of these projects would have, but the planning has been just impeccable and every detail has been considered. Those 4 cranes are working on a concrete superstructure that will ultimately connect at some point this spring. So you'll see a base of concrete. From there, you'll start to see steel. A lot of steel will be coming through the site and being erected on the site. And then what I think is going to be really exciting for folks, the seating bowl itself is being constructed in pieces in Atlanta, Georgia. And those pieces will start to make their way up the highway and start to actually be put in place on top of that structure. So at some point, probably next football season, when someone looks across that way, there's going to be a building that looks a whole lot like a football stadium. Not just the little pieces, not just the construction, but the shape will be well on its way.
Winter is approaching. Will construction slow down?
Actually, quite the opposite. So today we have 630 people working on the site every day. We are actually going to be increasing that number by 30 or 40 people per day to a peak of about 1,600 people. So not only will winter not slow us down, we're actually going to pick up the pace a bit.
All right, Amy, you've got the last question.
How can Titans fans keep up with all of the construction and all of the happenings at new Nissan Stadium?
NewNissanStadium.com is a website, and you can learn all about the stadium. And we're so excited for people to really dig as deep as we have into what the fan experience is going to be like at a new Nissan Stadium. It's little things like 360-degree concourses. It just makes more sense to be able to get around the entire building as opposed to having to stop and get up an elevator somewhere. You can work around the whole building. Frictionless markets, which means a fan will be able to go from a couple minutes in line waiting for their nachos to maybe 35, 40 seconds and back to their seat. Nearly double the amount of bathrooms, again, allowing people to get back to their seat. The Ring of Fire, it is 55,000 square feet of LED. that will surround the entire upper bowl. It's going to make fans feel immersed in the video boards. There's 70,000 square feet of LED around the entire building. It's going to be sensory overload. The sound system of the building is also going to be some of the best in the NFL. So you can just imagine how that's going to be coming to life in a Titans game. This building is just going to be incredible, and so we'd love for people to go to nissanstadium.com, look around and learn more about it and get as excited about it as we are.
Titans President and CEO Burke Nihill, thanks for joining Amy and me on the OTP. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.